So meeting order. Please, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Minutes of the previous meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. So I'm just checking my phone. Do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda, anything to add?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Ev. Good afternoon, good evening, I guess.
Good evening. In your packet, you should have had a proposal from Tyler Technologies. It is for the second to last stage of our scanning project for our mortgages. They put it into a computer system. The cost is $2,500. I'm just looking to see if it can be approved for that cost.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the scanning project. The cost of which is $2,500.
$2,500.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, I guess we're not paying for it, so all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any sense of when we're going to be completely done with the project?
What's your definition of complete?
Well, I know that as new records get added, they'll have to continually be scanned in, but say relatively current.
This part of it is that Tyler Technologies now has the TIP files, the images from US Imaging. So they will actually upload it on a sample server to make sure that nothing clashes with what is currently in our system. And then once that's done, and then they will upload actually to our server, put it in there. I would say within the next 4 to 6 weeks that would be done, but nothing is imaged, or indexed, I should say. Nothing is indexed. That's going to take years to index everything. I would say, on a rough estimate, probably 10 to 15 years to get everything indexed. That means the mortgages, the deeds, anything that is in there. Right now, we have indexing from 1979 up to current. As we're going through it, we're working on trying to index more, but it's according to what our workload is day to day.
Sure.
As far as complete, I can't give you a time frame. I'd say it's years to get everything complete.
Well, all right then.
This would be the last scanning project. Once this is completed, we wouldn't have to scan any other books. This would be the biggest project.
And it's just going through individual files basically. And
When US Imaging came in and took pictures of every single document in December, and then they arranged them in their system and adjusted them to make them look good when they're actually in the computer system. And that's taken since December up until we got the first sample that I went through in August to kind of spot check. So that took 9 months. It's the little bit faster part that's left now.
We only got about 130 years worth of documents to index, so 15 years is too bad.
It'll take a while.
It's a busy work. All right, very good, thank you.
thank you.
Chris, good evening.
Good evening. Mine's pretty simple. I brought to you guys back in January Tier 2 funding. We were going to be talking about the sheriff asked if he could apply mass with Tier 2 money, and it was granted, or it was voted to go yes. So I went to order those. Him and I did some research and went to order them. Due to COVID, no one was shipping them. No one was processing them. They were kind of holding back. So I got an email saying that they were good to take orders. So I just wanted to get approval to purchase the masks, and it's going to be about $2,200.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Motion to second to approve buying masks. You said that's grant funding then, the tier 2 funding?
It's the tier 2 funding, not grant, this is the funding they get for,
But it's just, yes, it's, okay, good. Okay, further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Very good, thank you. We've got Alan up next, but Alan isn't here. So, we will skip down Kevin.
all right.
Unless I'm not seeing Alan behind a post someplace. No, which is possible. Okay, go ahead, Kevin, thanks. Oh, you just walked in. Well, we'll let Alan go first then, since he just walked in.
Okay,
You're up.
all right. Well, the reason I'm here is to ask to use the memorial building for COVID testing. It's gonna, in October, it's gonna get cold. We're not gonna any longer be able to do it outside. We need our building big enough where we can line the people up and send them through and get them tested. So that's why I'm here.
Thoughts?
Any questions?
Do you have a sense for what your re-sterilization protocol will be? Like, so sterilization after
Sterilization.
after you've got hundreds of people that come through there?
None whatsoever. We wouldn't do it ourselves, we'd have a professional,
Come in
somebody do it.
okay, so it wouldn't just be like you do that whole thing and who knows what's floating around in there afterwards?
Yeah, no, we would call like service master and come clean it, you know, and, that's what we would do. We don't have the personnel to do it ourselves, so, yeah, or the time. So, it's,
You're gonna clean it before you use it?
no reason to.
No, just
No
have
reason.
to, have to be done.
We would require people to come with masks, we would line them up 6 feet apart, push them through, test them, they go out the other door, that's it.
Yeah, I guess my only hesitation was, you know, were we gonna expect building maintenance to clean it, which I didn't think was acceptable, but if you don't have a solution, then.
No, we would hire somebody to clean it. Yep.
Will this be an ongoing, well, second?
Second discussion, yes, question.
This is going to be on, supposedly on Thursdays, this is where the state is, we started out on Tuesday, but the tribe wanted that day, so we moved it to Thursday. They want the testing spread out because the lab can't handle it all at once. They're pushing us for more testing, not less. So, for the foreseeable future, that's what I've been told. I don't know how long they'll want to go forward with this. We'll see. I guess we're in the middle of flu shots also. Most of those are being done in private businesses, but they don't want the public coming in. The public has been coming up to our office for flu shots. So we will continue with that. We're going to probably try and do some mass flu shot clinics also. So yeah, they're keeping us hopping, that's for sure.
Who's they, the state?
The state, oh yeah.
They're gonna have you test every week, every month, or what?
We test every week usually, yeah, on Thursdays, yep.
And you're set up to do what, 300-400 or what?
We have 300 tests available for us each week. We've only, the highest we've gotten is probably 194, except for the very first one we did 200. A lot of people have lost interest in being tested, unless they have to be. Close contacts and people like that, they have to be tested. And there's still some people that want to know, and employers want their people tested. A lot of college kids need to be tested to get back into class. The ones that have to be tested are the ones that are coming for the most part right now. You know, it's just the public has gotten a little tired of it all.
What's your positive rate then?
It's not
On
very high.
average.
It's not very high. It's ours has been running between 1% and 2%, so it's not very high. Now, if we get into a a different population, like the college, it jumps up because they like to get together. You get one positive in a room, a small room of a bunch of people, it spreads real fast. It depends on who you're testing. If you're testing close contacts, our rate goes up to between like 3 and 5%. But, you know, it's, right now our hotspot is New Rockford. They've got like 60, I think it's 65 out of 10,000. Most of them have been from the nursing home, but not the patients, but the employees. And they're people that they get around with, and it's, for a small county, it's spreading pretty fast there, so.
They have a big nursing home.
Yes, but they've got Benson County with one of the highest rates in the state right there also. We tried to get their county commission to cancel their threshing show coming up here, and they wouldn't go for it. So, but with that rate, we public health, we had to try, and so that's where we're at there. And Pierce County's probably been the quietest for us in our health unit. But we control testing all the way to the Canadian border. We provide test kits and support for all 7 counties, R4 and then Rolette County and Cavalier. So. Any other questions?
Would there be state or federal funding for renting a vacant building that doesn't have?
It's possible. It's possible. I have to get that okay by the powers that be. We've been thinking of places. This is one of them because it's large and it's easily accessible. You know, there's not that many large open buildings. And our main hot site are the high schools. Well, we can't be there, they got high school, okay? Our backup is a memorial building in all the plans, so that was our first choice. We're looking at other places, we'll see how that goes.
Well, I know of a couple of large vacant commercial buildings in town.
Okay.
Whether or not they would be
Up for that.
willing to
Yeah,
rent that out for a duration, I'm not sure.
yeah.
One of the concerns that we would certainly have would be election staff and how we need to get all that arranged and you know, if you're having weekly tests in there,
Sure.
it isn't gonna allow Candy and her staff to get.
Right, well, if it's during the, you know, if they have to take a week off, we have to take a week off.
But it's not only election, it's the weddings that are scheduled, it's the school that has stuff scheduled,
Sure,
it's,
yeah.
like it's, the school's not allowing anybody to use their facilities, so now everybody's calling us.
Yeah.
So are we having volleyball practices and different things like that in there on a daily basis?
Okay.
That daily?
Yep.
What time does the testing usually run?
I mean,
What time does the testing usually run?
well, so far, we've been running at 9 to 11 in the morning. You know, we've run it on Saturday, we've run it in the evening to try and get, you know, more people involved. So our best time seems to be 9 to 11, which kind of surprised me. I thought the weekend would be, but it's summertime. I can understand nobody wants to come to testing on a Saturday when it's nice outside. The people that came were the ones that had to, the college kids and so forth. So.
And what day were you thinking?
What's that?
What day were you thinking?
Yeah, Thursday during the week.
Chris, I'm sure you want to know what buildings I'm thinking about in town.
Well,
Do you know, has there been any communication and with our planning about those? No?
I tried to contact the Kmart owner, and he wants nothing to do with this.
Okay,
And that was even just using their parking lot.
right.
he was afraid of the liability.
Sure.
So, which was little or nothing, but that's his concern.
Yeah.
And so, well, that put us in the Levers parking lot.
Yeah.
And they've been very gracious to us. And before that, we were out to Publix.
Is there anybody other than county bottle shop occupying that south half of Levers?
No, but it is, I've been in, it's kind of a disaster.
Oh,
but,
sure.
Yeah, they got stuff piled up and very dirty, but, that's a possibility that we can sit down with them, but that takes time and some rearranging type stuff.
How many more times are you gonna do it outside?
What's that?
How many more weeks are you gonna do outside?
Doing both, this Thursday and the 24th of September.
Okay.
We're gonna try and do them both outside. Could get a little chilly the way it's going on the 24th, but,
You better check with Service Master and see how long it's gonna take to clean up that memorial building.
okay.
You know, if you're done at 11 or 11:30 or
Yeah.
noon or whatever,
Yep.
see if they can have it cleaned up by 3 or 4 o'clock.
Okay.
And schedule them, make sure they're there to do it.
Well, sure.
So you don't hinder any practices that have to come in at 4 o'clock and volleyball or anything that you've already committed to the school for.
I can sure find out.
We'll probably be using Service Master after the election also, right, Candy?
Yeah,
Okay,
I didn't even think that far.
that would be a good idea.
You know, yeah, I've worked with them before. They've done a really good job. At that time, I don't know, you know.
The state funds all this anyway, right?
Yeah, the feds. It's federal
The
money.
money's coming down through the
Yeah,
state.
yeah, yeah,
The state gets to make the call, what they fund, yeah.
yeah. They provided the COVID funds to us, yeah, yeah.
Well, let's make sure that they can get in there immediately and they're scheduled to be there.
Right, oh, yeah.
And they gotta be done by 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, what kind, how long's it gonna take to get done?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I gotta find out. I'll go and talk to them and see what they say. I have no idea how long it would take.
You might have to keep doing it outside, but we have them lined up to clean that place up after they're done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll lay it out for them, see what they say.
Okay?
That's all I can do, and check back with you, yeah.
Okay, further questions, discussion? You got a motion and a second to allow the usage of the building for testing stuff?
With conditions.
With conditions, yes, cleaning and everything else.
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to say upon the condition that we know for, verifiable fact that the service master can have it cleaned up after every testing session.
Well, and are the people that we've already, reserved the building for comfortable with having the COVID in there or having potential for,
To make sure they're aware of it,
yeah.
I think they'll be fine.
I think they'll be fine too,
To
Well,
get
I think
cleaned
in
up.
the community, you have the chance to run
Yeah.
across them too, I mean, so.
Right. Do the sterilization.
You're all right with it, Candy?
Not really?
I know there's gonna be issues. I know that there's gonna be people building wise that are gonna have issues, so.
You want,
I mean, there's a lot of things sitting on those calendars right now. There's a lot of things sitting on the calendar right now.
Oh, sure, yeah, that's why I'm asking, yeah.
You know,
why don't we consider the search and rescue building? How's that, Kevin?
Yeah, at least there's not a lot of people going in and out of there.
Maybe that'd be a good place.
And we go in and out doors there.
Oh, there
Look
is,
at that.
I had no idea.
I think any place we can make work that's reasonable.
Well, something that doesn't have people coming and going on a consistent basis.
Let's consider that. I think we should.
that's why
I
like
can't see
people
that would be a problem.
would be
there's some sense that there's more things that might have been there. Just one
You know, that's that,
Yeah, I'll tell it, on,
county shop.
county shop, right? Am I right there behind you, isn't it?
There'd be enough parking, right, Kevin?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
I can go out and meet with, and you can show it to me and see, I'll gladly look at it, I thought it was all full of stuff.
It is.
It can be rearranged,
Oh.
there's plenty of dead space in there.
Yeah,
If you had 2 of those bays would be plenty, right?
Oh, yeah, if I'm thinking of a line.
we'll take a look at it. It can't hurt,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we should probably look at that.
Well, we're gonna have a meeting where you're gonna have an inside meeting, is that right?
Let's see,
Weeks from now?
I don't have my calendar with me, the first Thursday, you'd have it on the first Tuesday, so this would be the first Thursday. But I'll look at this and,
I think you better look at the search and rescue.
okay.
Lee's Memorial Building. I think
The
that,
reason we brought it, it's in all the plans, okay, to be used for this kind of thing. So that's why I came up with it.
oh, you different people frequent the search and rescue every week, 15, 20 people maybe?
Two, there's somebody that goes down there and exercises in the morning a couple of times a week, but other than that, that's it. I mean, unless there's an incident on the lake or something.
Yeah. Can't see why we used
For that.
have all those people in there, and have to be called out, that could be bad. But, we'll look at it, see what the possibilities are.
I'll make sure the search and rescue people are there when we're looking, so.
Good.
Yeah, we're gonna talk to them too, make sure they're, obviously it's accountability.
They'll have food or something.
Yeah, we gotta make sure they're comfortable with it too.
Keep the sheriff informed.
You know, does it have 2 big doors, or is it walk-in doors?
Two walk-in doors.
It's got a lot of ten big doors, obviously.
Well, it's got big doors too, but then it's got 2 walk-in doors.
Yeah, so, I mean, if they have 2 big doors, we can drive them through. See, then there's no reason to disinfect anything. Nope.
Yeah, it'll be a challenge.
Yeah, it'd be tough, can't get turned.
No.
Yeah.
They're all on one
Straight
side.
in,
Oh,
they're all one side.
Oh, well, that's worth a shot.
You could do Duke's Car Wash, yeah,
What's that?
do Duke's Car Wash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Haven't tried
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But could you do like the same thing like you do car seat checkups?
And you mean, at the, we have done odd, flu shots at the Ford garage. Those all have to be after hours though. They're doing business during the day.
Right.
And he's always been very gracious to let us do that. So it's all the stuff you gotta do to get ready, and it's gotta be in the evening. And our staff is running out of gas. They're going weekends and all day, and with contact tracing and testing. And if I can help it, I'm not gonna put them late, in the evening after hours, unless we have to. We only have so many staff, and they're wearing pretty thin. So. We'll look at it.
Search and rescue, I think is places
Yeah.
to know.
So how do we wanna deal with this? We got a motion right now.
Well, I mean, so you said the next 2 Thursdays, so this Thursday and next Thursday, basically.
We're out of levers both times.
Right, so then our next meeting would be Tuesday after next Thursday. Right, so we would have another meeting before you'd be testing again. Right, so then I retract my motion, and if we need to, under whatever occurrence, have to have like an emergency, figure out what to do, then we'll do that.
That's fine, and I can keep you informed, of what's going on, what we see, and our other possibilities. We can talk to, the leaders, see what they have to say, and go from there. Okay?
Everybody okay then with that?
Yep.
Maybe second, okay?
No, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
What you get after,
Yep.
figure it out, get back to us.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Al. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, we've only got 5 minutes. We'll come to 5 minutes. You're gonna say longer than 5 minutes, aren't you, Kevin? Okay, we'll skip down then to, go to new business then real quick. It's, per the LEC bill.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the billing for the LEC. Further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brett,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye. Motion carries. NDACO conference virtual. Is that,
That's-
it's obviously there's a virtual conference, but
Yeah.
is there something we have to do?
I need to know if there's any interest from any of the commissioners, to do the NDACO conference that's usually held every year in Bismarck.
Sign up there, I have to say.
Huh?
Register.
Yeah,
So you
Because-
register, then you can pick and choose what sessions you want to go to and stuff like that? or-
if you get 2 commissioners and 2 elected officials to sign up, then they're doing a flat fee. And then if you get 2 commissioners and 2 elected officials to sign up for it, the fee gets back.
Actually, they have to attend the last session.
I know, we got like 2 or 3 different emails at the last 5 minutes of the day.
Okay.
To read all of it, but it would be like a $500 flat fee.
And if the right people attended the last session, it's not gonna happen.
Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, then and if you want to do the ILG classes that they have, it would be $35 per class. So,
Okay, I guess is anybody interested in signing up for the first one?
Well, I had planned on signing up and attending whatever I could, but, and, you know, I plan on being down in Bismarck anyway, so, you know, regardless of where it's at, I would like to attend. You know, usually those are very worthwhile sessions. They do have a plethora of information that is beneficial, so I would like to attend. So you can put my name on the registration.
So it is virtual this year?
yes,
Entirely.
yep, no worries.
So you can sign me up, that's fine.
Do we have to attend live, or will it be like recorded and then we can watch it later in the evening or something?
Either way, you can watch live, or you can watch it later on.
Okay, sign me up too, because I'll try to do some of it, but I mean, if I'm at home, I don't.
Was there also something about, if you had so many, then, pay the registration, then you could have, you know, your entire commission attend, or all your elected officials do it, regardless of whether they.
Yeah,
register
it's
in it.
unlimited on the number of
So I think we're all fee, that they can as many as you want.
Yeah. Where it's actually
Yeah.
pretty saving money.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because Deb mentioned that she was interested. Lisa?
Yep,
Yep, yeah.
and I've already had my association meeting, Treasurers Association, we met yesterday.
Yeah. Mine's Thursday, so,
Sounds like we've got enough people then, so anybody that wants to open it up can do it for nothing, so that's.
okay, well, reach out to the others tomorrow and see who.
6 feet apart.
6 feet apart.
Okay.
I think we got 1 more minute, so let's go down to letter of transfer.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the letter of transfer, further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Out-of-state travel for the sheriff's department.
Move to approve.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Motion, second.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
He really wants to go there.
Motion carries. Homestead credits.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to approve homestead credits. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Motion carried. Hopefully things are approved. Okay. Going too fast there?
Nope,
Better refresh the room.
I got the tape for this.
All right, meeting is 6 o'clock. We will open the 2021 budget hearing, final budget hearing for the 2021 budget. Just a quick overview of the budget. It's presented on our desks here, but for anybody that doesn't have a copy out there, this year, right now, the preliminary budget that, as it stands, that we would approve at the first meeting of October, stands at 90.81 mills levied from the county perspective, down from 93.69 last year. So mills are down, but our percentage of increase in terms of cost is actually up slightly, 3.81%, because of the increase in the mill value. So our total overall budget is $10,867,494.90, and that partially has federal funds in it as well as county funds, state funds, everything else that goes into the budget. But our actual local assessment of that 10.867 million is 5.56 million. So about 50% of our budget comes from our local property tax, and the other 50% comes from state and federal revenue sources. I don't know what else I can say other than in order to get back to zero sum, where we would have no increase in the budget from last year, from our current year's budget, we would have to decrease $239,331. So if we wanted to hold even, we would have to find around $240,000 worth of savings. With that, I guess any comments or questions on the 2021 budget? Or concerns, I guess.
I can take off 14,500 for new crops.
There you go. Pass the hat. The only thing
Budgeted pies.
Anybody can chime in, obviously, since this is a budget hearing. The only thing I was going to ask the question of, I was hoping the sheriff was going to be here, so I could ask him the question as well, but we are getting those CARES Act dollars back. And we're looking at about what? We had 267,000 plus the next 2 months, so we'll probably come in at 350,000, give or take. So what would we like to do with those dollars? Would we like to pass them back to savings, or would the sheriff's department, do they have certain things they need to buy? That we could offset costs or anything like that even this year? What are we going to do with those additional dollars essentially is, instead of sitting on them, the whole concept is to kind of give everybody a break, I think, so if we could pass them back, I think that would be a beneficial use of the dollars after we use them for law enforcement uses. And that would, we wouldn't have to pass everything back, but it would get us down on hold even zero. We could take 240 of it, hold ourselves even, and then we could keep the rest for additional spending next year or something like that. Essentially, it's going to offset the fact that we're increasing the sheriff's department's budget since we're adding officers, which, it's one-time spending, which is, I don't like offsetting dollars with it, but otherwise it's just going to sit in the fund anyway. Yeah, it's just going to sit in the general fund.
I'd like to ask Kevin, your budget's gonna be all right?
Yeah, yes. This year. Next year is not, well, our even years, we'll have our road projects, so this is an odd year, so yeah, we're fine this year. Next year will be different.
Do we need to bank some for next year, or too far out, or what we do it?
Be paid, I don't understand, be paid.
Puts it right away for your budget for next year?
Yeah.
Do you think we should use some of this CARES money for that?
If you got a better use, I would use it for that. So I think we'll be all right. Depending on keep calling it the Gopher bill.
Curry
Bill. They're saying we're not gonna get any money from that. We were
None?
zero. And we were kind of counting on that, so
I've
that's.
heard a little different than that, but I haven't heard no figures.
What have you heard? There has to be a legislative change for us getting money. Then that legislative change would come after January, so it's.
When do we into the next plan.
The pots that, at least the last projection I saw, it was probably a month ago plus, I would guess, was the pots before, the pots that fill for the prairie dog bill weren't even gonna fill. So we're running so far behind on dollars right now, so.
At the rate we're at now, the pot in front of us is not gonna fill in time. But the legislative issues are trying to get, that there's a $400 million pot that goes to the state highway and a couple other things, but most of it goes to the state highway. They're trying to get that pot through legislative change back behind our pot, if that makes sense.
So they want ours to fill previous to the state.
Right. And ours is only like 30 million or something like that, versus a $400 million pot.
And I think the three pots were 115 or something like that. In county, city, and township. and
Well,
then-
it'd be
and then
there
airport.
15, not 30, yeah, I mean, townships, counties, and cities are all in our pot.
Yeah, and then there's the secondary pot, that's the airport one, that money floats into that, and those other things.
Repeat what you're thinking, Adam. Take 240 and put it in the cover, over the budget this year, I mean, extra, what we're doing extra this year. And then keep the rest in general. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
That's kind of where I was at, that would, we could hold even, we still would retain some of those dollars, probably 100,000 and change, so if the sheriff's department had any additional expenses, we could spend those on, whatever comes up, I guess, but it'll sit in the general fund, being the sheriff's department is funded over the general. So it would just build our general fund coffers slightly, but at the same time, we would be passing on the tax. I wouldn't say a rate, obviously, but we would be able to hold steady for everybody out there.
Right.
Was my thought. That's just kind of just rambling around in my head the last few
I
days.
like that thought.
I like that thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do too, and given the nature of this year, I think that makes a lot of sense. It would be, good by taxpayers and the county. But again, I feel wrong if I didn't say that the only thing that ever scares me about not raising taxes a little is you have to raise them a lot the year after, 2 years after, The one thing, I'm not saying that this will happen, but just feel like mentioning it, you don't want to whipsaw people's taxation.
What do you think, Lisa?
Well, I'd like to put it all in the general fund, but I don't know. No, what's he need? What does the sheriff need?
Well, I think he's got everything he needs, but.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's been put in his budget,
Yeah,
so.
well, at this point, yeah, his budget is funded.
budget
He's
is-
fully funded
yeah,
with the additional,
And he was thrilled with that.
yeah, with the additional, what, did we put?
And the investments aren't up there. I mean, we were working at about 1.9 for interest, and now it come due and all I got was 0.35. So I renewed the CDs for 3 months, thinking maybe something would change around by December, January. I don't know.
The Fed's going to keep interest rates at zero for as long as possible. because
I know,
how
it's
unsteady
just-
the economy is.
Yeah,
So-
so start seeing inflationary pressure.
And that was pretty competitive through the whole banks, because I call a few of them, and, yeah.
What do we generally earn on all of our CD interest in a year? Not a
Well,
normal year, not this year.
We've been doing $1 million sitting at a year,
So
so
30.
we're getting about 19,000, and I've got, 4 million tied up.
I assume COVID affected the revenue stream though for this year. That would probably not be affected next year. So to raise taxes, because you're worried, but there was an effect on the income from COVID, I wouldn't suggest personally to raise the taxes right now.
Well, yeah, certainly not. I mean, the only reason I say that is that there have been years, even while I've been a commissioner, where we've had to raise fairly substantially, right? And so one of the things that I think, although it feels nice at the time, it's not good budget practice where, okay, we've got a little bit more than we need this year, so let's give it all back, right? And then you come down, and then all of a sudden next year, it's like, oh man, our expenses are way back up there, we gotta go up 10%. Whereas if you had just sort of held steady and said, hey, we had a feast year, we're gonna have a little bit of a nice, savings, right, in the accounts, then you don't have to go up as much, right? You can sort of scale that up. I don't know that that's the case this year, but I do feel it bears mentioning, you know.
Yeah,
again,
of course it does.
I think that this is a special case. I'm absolutely, you know, on that train. I think this was a hard year for a lot of people. So, but I felt it would not be right of me not to mention it at all.
For sure, and it's a reasonable question. My question is then, Kevin, you know, when we initially put the budget together, we were talking the possibility of paving in 22 or possibly pushing it to 23, correct? So that project is gonna be, how many miles is that Hamden stretch?
I think it's 9, no, 10, there's a curve there, it's 10.
So we're probably looking at, let's see, what did we pay this year, 14?
Pretty close.
So about 100,000 a mile for the overlay cost right now, then probably we were taking it. So we're looking at probably about $1 million project. So we funded that out of county road dollars. Is that how we build that revenue stream, correct?
In the future, to build it up,
Yes.
we use it out of the highway. No, it's not the county road, it's highway tax.
Well, yeah, we always build highway tax, but we borrowed ahead on the highway tax to get this last portion done. So we're going to have to then accumulate highway tax from 22 and 23 then, right? Would that be enough to cover that project probably? I mean, what are we accruing in highway tax a year right now?
It'd probably be 300,000.
Okay, so we're not doing too bad then. I mean, because if we collect 2 years worth of highway tax, we'll have 600 and then we'll have about a $400,000 hole we're gonna have to fill to get that paving done if we push it to 23, which is something. Which, 400,000 our mill rate now is only what, 6 million, 7? That's not. I mean, so we could spread that out over the 22 and 23 budget and easily just add, you know, 3 or 4 mills each year and then spread them over so we can build enough revenue to get that project. Yeah, that was my concern too, in thinking about it, is how do we balance so we don't go up and down and jump back and forth, and we want to try to keep kind of steady, but at the same time pass some of those dollars back.
Can we derive at a figure other than the 240, somewhere between 0 and 240? To give the taxpayers a break and keep a little more in the general for that road project, just in case. I mean, we were kind of counting on that prairie dog money, and I think we should keep a little more than.
That's fine. I mean, we have time to discern this. We don't have to make a decision tonight. It's just an open discussion for everyone to think about in the next 2 weeks previous to our October meeting when we have to finalize the budget to say where do we think we should land at, essentially. But I just wanted to bring it up tonight so everybody had some time to chew on it.
Good idea.
And another thing to think about is the feds are trying to find ways to stimulate the economy through road projects, so they're making money there. I mean, we don't know that, but.
Well, yeah, I remember, didn't, was it Brian, correct? Brian from NDDOT sent out an email talking about that they wanted to get projects lined up because there was the possibility of some dollars coming for infrastructure.
They haven't come yet, but.
Yeah, but there's a possibility right after something, or at least something that they're looking at. So it's one of those ones where you never, if you had a crystal ball, you know exactly what you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never do. All we can try to keep stuff as level as we can, be as reasonable as possible. All I know is this, and granted, mills aren't completely equivalent to cost of budget totally, obviously. But since I've been on the commission, obviously our mills have grown in value probably from 45,000 to 63 now, 64 almost. But we've gone from a mill rate, I think the first year I was on, we were probably 130, and we're down to 90 now. Now, some of that is obviously caught in the mill rise capture, and some of it's obviously state taking on social services funding, but I think the taxpayers of Ramsey County, if you look at the traditional dollars, we're actually in a pretty doggone good place comparatively to what we were 5 or 10 or even 15 years ago. The mill rates used to be far higher if you look in the past. So I mean, comparatively speaking, our tax structure is not too bad right now. But it's always nice when you can try to get people, try to keep, you know, we don't need to get any more than we need, obviously. So, further discussion, questions, comments?
have any discussion on the budget?
Excuse me, sir?
No. All right.
Our office received another 38,000 grant, so that'll be coming next year. And Kim's got 3 years now, so 38,000 each time. That's a VOCA grant.
So that goes,
I think that goes
off
into
the budget
the
then?
general, doesn't it?
It goes into miscellaneous.
Oh,
We pull our wage from there.
okay.
Anybody else got coach position? What's over? 38-14, that's already 52, doing well. Okay. Any discussion, questions, comments, concerns? 2021 budget.
I don't know that we received a whole lot of calls.
No, it was
Since the
pretty
estimates
calm
went out.
this year.
Yeah.
Couple people come in just to, how do we read it? It wasn't a big deal. It was nice.
Well, the school held fairly steady, the townships have all held fairly steady, so I mean,
Right, right, yeah.
it's been, I think actually mine went down, it's just like $5. Pretty. Okay, one last chance. Okay, seeing no one else, we will close the hearing on the 2021 budget. Okay, from there, we will move on to Kevin.
Yes, so we'll start right off with discussion of the approaches on Ramsey 4, miles south of 8. Met with the water board yesterday, and they want to do actually their attorney suggested that they do a hydraulic study on that flow through there and see if those larger culverts are warranted or whatever the study shows, that's what they want to do. So they have, as far as I know, they ordered up a hydraulic study for that location. And there's two 24-inch centerline culverts there that come from the west side to the east side that are adding water to that system. So hard to say what their study is going to show.
How long do they usually take these studies?
A month, that's 2 to 3 weeks, best case scenario. Yeah, we're looking at the third week in October before we're done all the chips. I mean, it's possible we can still get it done that last week in October, November, but the weather could be around here too. It may end up being next year before the work is done. Brian Polk and I did meet out there with Justin Gross and his dad, Justin's dad. I can't think of his name. Albert. And when we were talking, it was kind of a one-sided conversation. They had contacted the Schneider boys, Steve, and anyway, and they said go ahead and do this project. They were going to get the bulk of the water that's coming down there. As we were out there on the road talking, Bob, the father of the two boys, showed up, and he was really adamant about taking those back out. So, I mean, we heard both sides of the discussion that day. We were out there on the road looking at Brian and I looking at the situation. So we had some really good discussion that day out on the road. But in the end, our board decided to do a hydraulic study there.
Thanks.
So yeah, we may be looking at next spring or whatever to get those, depending on what the hydraulic study is going to show.
So if if somebody downstream ends up with property damage of some kind, from flow next spring, who has liability?
Well, once that hydraulic study is done, if it says that it needs, let's just say, for instance, it needs those extra culverts that they put in, then theoretically they can't sue anyone. Mother Nature. But
And Kevin and I were having this discussion before the meeting that those 24-inch culverts weren't there when that road was initially designed.
No.
Correct?
Right.
So there's extra water coming in that probably weren't there initially when that road was put in and designed. So there's a good chance that what was there was inadequate. And that's something that this flow study is gonna let us know.
Well, I just, in a case like this, because it's so unusual and I could potentially see temperatures running hot in the spring and, water flow that may or may not be related to any of the stuff that's gone on, be a cause of consternation. I just want to make sure that, I kind of want to know what we might be liable for.
well, I guess my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but we didn't do the damage, so we really wouldn't be held liable for, yeah, exactly. You always get named in the lawsuit, right? But I mean, we would have a leg to stand on there. We didn't approve the work, we didn't do the work,
Okay. Further thoughts?
So the risk that we could have is do the work now and then have the flowage study done and only to determine that we need to do it again.
Oh, no, I'm not making the argument that we should go ahead and, front run the water board's findings. I just want to know if it looks like we're going to be pushed into a freeze, what that might mean in the spring.
So we got a long haul left. Hopefully.
I hope so too.
Worst comes to worst, you can't get them out, and the study finds they're supposed to be taken out, you're supposed to. Yeah, where to plug them. I understand why the water board's doing what they're doing, and I'm not saying I completely disagree with it, but I kind of completely disagree with it.
The water flows that way, there's no question.
I don't deny that fact, but the whole process is supposed to be that if you thought that you needed additional flow, you speak up, you go say, this needs additional flow, you do the study, you get it okayed, then you put the culverts in. You don't go cutting culverts yourself. It's just that simple. And I just struggle with, I understand, and I'll go along with whatever we want to do, but I'm just frustrated.
I can remember a time years ago when the county commissioner wanted but they wanted to open cut one of our county roads to let the water use it. And I wasn't a lawyer, but I advised against it just because of the downstream effects of it could happen.
We might not like water law, I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, it's still there, regardless if we like it or not.
Well, like you said, Kevin, the water board's lawyer suggested this. Well, I think we'll follow.
No, I agree, I'll follow their recommendation, and I'm just saying that, just kind of a little back.
As Jeff said, that's what happens, it comes to, we'd actually have to plug the bottom one to get all the water to stop, coming down to the last person, That would stay in our ditch. They had those culvert roads and approaches open cut, so then we knew nothing stopped it at the time when the rain came.
Well, I guess we can wait and see what the water board comes back with on the study, and then we can determine what we're gonna do from there. I mean, we have options, so.
I think they're doing the best they think is best for them, so.
That's not a real game.
As a whole.
Okay, any other questions on that? Seeing nothing, we'll move on.
Okay, and then that guardrails that are supposed to be on the Morris Township Bridge, I asked 3 different companies to give me quotes, but one of the companies no longer installs them. Lumen Science no longer installs them, so I got one bid from Custom Contracting Solution, Jamestown, to do the total project was $19,322.24. And just the materials, if we were gonna do it, was $13,025.28. Another bid I got was from 3D Specialties out of Fargo. Their bid was $21,231.32. And just the materials was $13,241.32. And honestly, I was thinking it was gonna be a whole lot more than that, so I would like to have them do the work since we're gonna be doing other stuff anyway, so I guess my suggestion or my recommendation would be to accept Custom Contracting Solutions for the total project of $19,322.24.
You got this fall?
Yep, do it this fall.
Move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
motion, second, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And I need to order a little bit of road oil for our overhead barrel, so we're ready for next spring. It's gonna take about 3,500 gallons, and that's gonna cost $8,500, roughly $8,500.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion is second, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And as I was going through all of our load pass agreements, I found one that didn't get signed by the chairman of the auditor, came in late. So I'd like a motion to have the chairman and the auditor sign Creel Township's load pass agreement.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion is second, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That's all I have.
All you got. Thanks, Kevin.
I do have one question over here. This is a good one. That road, Benson County, road south of Church's Ferry, the one we paid, like, $10,000 to inspect that bridge.
Yeah.
We never, it went underwater. Are we gonna have to spend $10,000 again?
No.
No? That,
Our inspection, our underwater inspection is still good.
okay.
Yep.
Because I noticed there's, I don't know, probably 30 feet from the bridge back that's still underwater. And I thought, you know, are we gonna have to ante up another $10,000 in the spring to make that really good again? Okay.
I checked into that.
Okay.
There's an amount of years that come in there,
I suppose, yeah.
but they didn't tell me they got how many years it is.
Yeah,
Let's
from,
say 5 years, I don't know what it
from the north coming down, you know, that'd be fine, but from the bridge south, that's where the water is. The bridge itself is out of the water.
is. And of course, the only thing they're concerned with is what's going on underneath.
Underneath the bridge, yeah.
West half of the truck road.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that lately.
It's a,
It's, yeah.
Is there an on out there again?
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was
they
gonna say,
didn't, they didn't fix it back to original status. They just kind of put some gravel in all areas that they squished out. But it needs to, once they're done and complete, which looks to be soon. I'm hoping. It's been a long summer of 2-lane traffic on the 4-lane highway. And that road is in really tough shape. So,
They're hauling a lot of gravel out of it right now.
I say, well, right after the last meeting, I hauled a little bit on it, it wasn't in too bad a shape it got, but since they started hauling it, it's probably last week.
It's really good.
it must be for that DOT section.
I think that's where it is, yeah, because it's going right across the highway. Yeah.
Do you talk to him, Kevin?
I don't know, they have a construction meeting every Tuesday, and I couldn't get there today. So I haven't talked to them for a week.
I was by it the other day and I got a big idea they're gonna use it again next year.
I don't think next year, but they did say they were gonna use it this fall, yeah. I think they hope to have that project completed by tomorrow.
They're waiting to see when contracts are let, or bids are gone, and all that.
But we're pushing the timeline, if they're gonna have to get, base one down yet, I mean, weather's gonna start turning on them too, so, you know, I need to stay on top.
Yeah, they had a lot of equipment back in there. They got the porta potties and everything back in there.
nail. I didn't think there'd be any gravel left.
They're coming up two then, going west on two?
I think they're just crossing, I think they're doing over by the DOT building over there. So I think that's where all the gravel's going.
They're redoing that intersection there right at the DOT.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Widening the turn lanes, if that makes sense.
Putting in scale.
they put some goofy looking curves.
Yeah, I was gonna say, whoever designed that, I always thought straight lines were the way to do it, but.
Don't you have an agreement with those contractors to repair the roads?
And that's why we're just wondering whether or not their work is completed yet. Once they're completed, then that road gets turned back to its original shape, and that was the agreement that we signed off on as a county, so.
And the state agreed with it, so it's not just a contract, it's got skin in the game.
Just, like you said, we're running out of time. We're gonna get it in application and shit before the snow starts to fly here at some point. Okay, further questions?
Thank you, Kevin.
Very good, Kevin. Okay, we'll move down to unfinished business then. Excuse me. COVID discussion. Standing order of COVID discussion. I have nothing to add about COVID discussion today. Been watching the numbers, so. I saw the governor has started to move some counties, county by county, on his scale of severity, so we're still at green, I believe. Benson is yellow next month, so it sounded like every county must be having some issues.
Mr. McKay told us today it sounds real good.
So,
1 out of 200.
yeah. Well, our total rate, I was actually just looking it up while I was talking, is, let's see here.
Was it a 2.2%?
3.7% daily positivity in Ramsey today on what was reported. And our rolling average, I think, is 14 on 7 day. Like that.
On Ramsey County?
I think so, that's what I saw today. Because it was 18.6 yesterday, and then it went down to like 4% today.
It's good news for the schools, good news for everybody.
Let's hope it stays down.
You bet.
Yeah, and it all depends on how much testing we have for each of these, at least where it's at. But I have nothing to add. Any other questions? Okay, seeing nothing. Property nuisance discussion. We have our state's attorney in the back of the room.
There is not an answer for tonight, so right now I've spoken with the city attorney and there's some stuff in their extraterritorial jurisdictional zoning. There's a specific provision that is a penalty provision. He's going to look into whether or not it applies to the extraterritorial zoning piece. If it did, then the city would be responsible to address the issue. So I'm waiting to hear back from Mr. Trainer on what his thoughts are on that. Mr. Frith, I think, reached out to Creel Township, got a copy of their zoning and planning regulations for, was it $20?
Yeah.
$20 to get the hot copy. They indicate they don't feel it's their responsibility. So once I hear back from Mr. Trainer, then I can have a much more formal pieced out answer for you.
Okay. Reasonable?
So the city, ultimately, they have their zoning in town, and then they have their extraterritorial zoning. They have general police power for a half a mile around the city, which their ordinances would apply, so they have a nuisance ordinance. The question I have for Mr. Trainer, on their extraterritorial zoning, there's the penalty provision that's in there. If that is intended to apply to the extraterritorial zoning generally, it may be their issue. If his interpretation is that it isn't, then it might be our issue, so. That's how it goes. It's something that certainly could be written into zoning ordinances. It's not currently in the zoning that we have, but it is something that could be written into that. It's also something that if home rule were to pass, that could be looked at generally as an ordinance the county might want to look at considering down the road under health, safety, and welfare of people in the county.
If we had home rule, we could do that. Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah, I think in the home rule charter as it stands, there's provisions in there to adopt ordinances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have ordinance.
So it could go there, it could go into zoning, it could go into zoning regulation if such were adopted, but it could also go in a home rule ordinance.
Providing that township would adopt the county's zoning, correct?
I would gather they'd have no problem letting us do certain things, so,
Certain things.
yeah.
We're saying if we put it under a zoning ordinance, or encapsulated it. Now, like a ordinance structure, if you had home rule, then they don't have to adopt that, that's just a standing ordinance on anything outside of any city limits that's not incorporated.
That's not, yeah, in a half mile.
Okay, further questions? Okay, thanks for all the work.
Thank you.
Find out at the next meeting, I guess.
No problem.
We're getting a direction.
Okay. New business, I think we accomplished all that. Cool, man. Good stuff. Visitors and delegations, anybody here speak to issue? We have some visitors this week, which is always nice. Okay. No one? Announcements, anybody with an announcement? Exciting. Okay.
I don't know if you want to discuss the electronic posting. It's been in the news quite a bit because of obviously hunting season currently going on. But Ramsey County, we agreed to be a part of that pilot project that the legislature wanted to study through the interim. And I think probably because of our great GIS man back there, Steve, thank you for all that hard work. But I don't think they had a whole lot of landowners participate in it. The deadline for participation sign-up was the 15th of July. So I think within the 3 counties, there are 79 landowners and roughly 36,000 acres that were signed up for the electronic posting. And that was an exclusion from actually posting your property this year. It just gives outdoorsmen an opportunity to look on their app and their phone to see. I did speak with Director Steinwand, and he would be willing to come up and explain the project a little better at our next meeting if we'd like, or sometime in the future. He would also be willing to discuss that ANS wash station proposal that we agreed to jump on board with and pursue with the 3 other counties, Nelson and Benson County. I know their ANS coordinator is going to be up at the lake access meeting in a week, I believe, meeting the 23rd. Ben will be up to discuss that a little more. Because there, you know, as we discussed at our last meeting, there's a lot of unanswered questions in their proposal for that ANS wash station, and hopefully we can get some answers. But Mr. Steinwand did say that he would be willing to come up and discuss that with the commission if we'd like to have that, or he would send a representative as well. So that, and whatever our convenience to have them up with, we'd be willing to make that happen. So
I think that we value in that specifically about the wash stations. This makes perfect sense to me. And the electronic posting seems fairly simple and straightforward, but I would like to hear more about.
it does seem to get discussed at every legislative session for the past, I don't know, 6, 7 sessions. You know, there's, so this was one way for the legislature to come up and study a way to do things differently than what we're doing now. Whether or not it's workable or agreeable between sportsmen and landowners, I'm not sure, but at least it's a discussion. So, but legislature meets in January, so I guess, and they'll have to know something by then, or at least have some good idea. I know the sportsmen have some sort of survey that they're asked to fill out if they do use the application. I think there's a mobile app and all that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, it would be beneficial to have help at some point in time with the watch stations.
Yeah,
And bounce any questions.
you know, maybe then we'll have some answers to the questions at the Lake Access meeting next week, and
Well, yeah, we'll have some more information on it from our,
Commissioner Olson will give us an update on that, so.
we'll see what they're thinking of or what they're looking at. I guess at least have some idea where we're going. It's something we want to participate in. Yeah. Yeah, so if you want to contact, that'd be fantastic. We'd be willing to come up at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else under announcements? Discussion? Okay, seeing nothing, we are adjourned.
Thank you.